All right, everybody, welcome back. It's From the Stands. Guys, we have made it to the end of the year. Bowl season is in full swing. We had some fun today getting this set up, getting everything going. I've got a live show for you all today, flanked on either side, as you can see, by these Bama guys. Obviously, they didn't have anything better going on, so they don't have a playoff game to prepare for.
Nice.
Big games going on this week, and I do want to congratulate the both of you. Actually, all three of us. We have all scored the same amount of points as Miami football has this bowl season. So
Woo!
congratulations to us.
Man, that was rough.
We're killing it,
Gosh.
guys. So what's
Oh.
been so far? What's been the biggest thing for you guys as you introduce yourselves? Starting with you, Bo. The biggest thing for you this off season so far, the bowl season.
Yeah, obviously Bo Gorham, living in Alabama under the Saban era. Still Roll Tide. Obviously we're not CFP worthy this season, but still Roll Tide. Saban's still a god. Um, my biggest takeaway from this whole bowl season is Miami. Like you mentioned, I don't know that they're gonna be relevant for a while now. Um, at the beginning, it was easy to write them off as they're young. They had some hiccups needed to because the Florida game, if you can recall from that far back, it wasn't. They didn't look terrible. They looked like they had some things to work on,
Sure.
and that as long as they worked on those things, that they might be a respectable team in the ACC.
Yeah.
But after that loss to Louisiana Tech, I can't say that they're going to be anything next year. I mean, they still have not been able to figure out their line, which still
Yeah.
is young, but there was no growth over the season. They look just as bad, if not worse, in their bowl game as
Yes.
they did in the
In
opening
the
of the
opener.
season.
Yeah.
And yeah, there've been a couple of injuries there, but it's just one of those things that I'm completely shocked to
Absolutely.
see because at the beginning of the season, I was pretty high on Miami. I don't know if we can recall that far back, but I I thought that Miami would at least be a respectable team, 9-win, 10-win
Yeah.
team, but
Sure.
no, not
They,
this
they,
season.
they
Ash,
were inches
welcome
away
back to
from
the
the
broadcast. By the
season
way,
over
Ash,
Florida.
why don't What about you? What's been your biggest takeaway in the bowl season?
Glad to be back here with you guys. I'm glad that the FCC allowed you to bring me back on. I thought that was going to be a permanent thing there.
Sir,
But
this is
Ashley
YouTube.
Renfro from well, they've got some dominion, but I think the biggest thing that I can take away from bowl season so far, and really, I mean, honestly, the entire season, is the era of the 9 to 6 football game is closed over and done and shut down.
Mm.
I myself love defensive football, and I always loved those 6-3 games, 6-0 games, whatever. That is now over. If you are going to win in big time college football, you better damn well be scoring 30 plus points a game. You're probably going to need more than that at the end of the day because it's over. Yeah.
Yeah, these high flying offenses are definitely taken front and center on these stages. And
All there is.
it's kind of sad, honestly, because I think to an extent it's just kind of going to be a vicious cycle because you're not getting the defense enough time to rest. You're getting them right back out there into another game, even if the other team is playing slower, more methodical football. Your defense is going to be out there the whole damn game because you're just
Yeah.
chucking the ball down the field, scoring a touchdown in 3 minutes or 2 minutes.
Yeah, I was
Yep.
It's
just
one of those
watching one
things
of
that
those.
defenses are going to have to.
I was just watching one of those like history of the game, the 150 series that ESPN is doing, and they were talking about having one platoon football where your team, your 11 guys played both ways, and just the advent of that two platoon where you could swap out your offense and defense. Could you imagine today's game where all 11 guys were playing both ways? That's like you want to talk about safety aspect. That would not fly in
Yeah.
today's deal. All right, so here's
It would have to
format.
be slower.
Yeah. So here's the format for today. We're not doing shots and chasers. We've got a lot of really good games left, but really there are 10 that we think have kind of stood out. We've ranked them as a staff internally, and we're going to go through our top 10 games remaining of this full season. But before we do, let's go ahead and get to some of the social media stuff. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're following us on YouTube. Thanks for that. Really, the best place to follow us, especially on game day, is going to be on Twitter. But of course, you can always find us on Facebook, and our 2020 resolution is to really get going on Twitch, maybe some more micro content. And if you look right there at the very bottom, you'll see FromTheStands.us. That's the website. We've had some really good content come up, especially as we were getting ready to preview the conference championship games. So, with that said, guys, what do you say we start talking about some football games, huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
Bring it on.
Coming in at number 10 in our countdown, this was surprising to me, the Fiesta Bowl. This is one of our playoff games, and it racked in all the way down at number 10. I think this is the most compelling of the playoff games, if anything else, because we just don't know who Clemson is right now, and we know that Ohio State are some world beaters. So trying to see how the defense at Ohio State can match up with what the offense at Clemson is going to be able to do. Ash, starting off with you, tell me the number one thing that you're looking forward to in this game.
Well, I want to see if the problems that Trevor Lawrence made with ball security early in the season that he seemed to clean up in the back 2/3 of the season, or at least back half of the season. I want to see if that is related purely to adjustments he's made, adjustments that offensive coordinators have made in the play calling, or maybe the lack of competition in the ACC. Because if there's people that will pick a pass off from you, it's the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
And that may be the difference in this thing. I really think that this has to be a ball control type game, and that's not how Clemson usually maps it out. They like to throw it around a little bit.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I want to see, is Trevor Lawrence legitimately that guy that has adjusted his game a little bit, gotten tighter with ball security, or did the schedule drop off and you're playing less ball hawk teams? So if I could, I'd just like to throw out there that I think that Clemson is phenomenal. This would be their 29th straight win. I do think Ohio State is better, and I think the Buckeyes end the winning streak right there at 28.
Wow. Bo, what do you think?
I mean, I think that my big thing that I'm going to be watching for is Ohio State's defense going to be able to create the turnovers? Kind of similar, but a little bit different. I think it's going to be more on Ohio State to do that, because I do think that Trevor Lawrence has I think that he had a little bit of drop off at the beginning of the season, but I think that he's kind of got his feet back under him and got his head back on right. And I don't think that he's going to be making a lot of mistakes like he was earlier in the season. I'd like to see if Ohio State's defense is able to stop what they're doing. Etienne is still Etienne. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is still amazing. There's still a couple of, maybe a few less targets that he's got. A few less, big play ability guys on the outside, but he's still got solid pass catchers.
Sure.
And so if I want to see if Ohio State's going to be able to make some stops, make a takeaway or two, maybe one. They may only need one. It may just be the one that they need.
Yeah.
But if they're able to kind of do a little bit of that, then yeah, I think Ohio State is going to be able to give Clemson hell, and I think that they may eke out the win. I don't know. We know that they can score on offense. We know that that Clemson is one of those teams that has a tough defense, tough offense. But I think one takeaway here, one mistake there, and suddenly Ohio State's running away with it.
Sure.
Interesting.
I'm surprised neither of you mentioned Justin Fields' health and seeing just how they're able to game plan around it. His knee is still giving him issues. Mike Yurcich, the passing game coordinator, obviously, able to find ways to get the ball out of his hands quickly so he's not having to scramble or take hits as often. I think that's going to be one of the game changers. However, if you remember in that conference championship game, as soon as the very first play that he came back in from getting his knee tweaked, he threw a touchdown. So, maybe it's not maybe it's not that big of a deal. So very interesting. I think of all the games, I think this is probably the one that I'm looking forward to the most as a neutral football fan, just because there's so much out there that we just don't know. So what do you guys say we move on to the next one?
Yeah, sure.
Good.
All right, bringing us down to number 9. It is my boys right here, Pistols firing in the Texas Bowl tonight in Houston, 6:45 Eastern on ESPN. Guys, Texas A&M has kind of been the most average team of the year. They have beaten everyone that they're supposed to beat, and they have lost to everyone they're supposed to lose to. So I think the big thing here is going to be is Oklahoma State a better, should they lose to them or should they lose to them? And that's, or should they beat them or should they lose them? And that's, I think, going to be kind of what happens in this one. Oklahoma State has, I think they're a 6.5 point underdog. So, if the season tells us anything, A&M should be looking pretty good. I'm not thinking that way personally, but I'm curious to know, Bo, what you think about this one.
Yeah, here's the thing with A&M. A&M, we don't know if A&M is a top 15 team or a top 25 team or not even in the top 25. And that's the thing, because losing to 5 of like the top 12 teams,
Right.
and quite a few of the top teams in the nation. I mean,
Yeah.
they've lost to LSU, they've lost to Clemson, they've lost to Auburn, they've lost to Alabama, and they lost to, what was the other one? There's one more. LSU, Bama, Auburn, Clemson,
Did they play
and
Georgia? Yeah, they almost beat, because they played Georgia close.
They did.
they almost beat Georgia. They lost by, it was like 13-19 or something like
Yeah,
that.
so two of the teams that are
and
in
so,
the
yeah, I mean-
playoffs, another two that very well could be. Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with you, and that's the interesting way the rankings work, right? You could lose to
Right.
5 teams and in theory still be the 6th best team in the nation. I don't know, Ash. What do you think? This whole best 7-5 team in the country. How do you feel about that?
It's a similar deal. I mean, I don't think A&M achieved this year. I think people expected that schedule was going to give them trouble.
Yeah.
So what Jimbo did down there was not an underachievement like you may have seen from some other schools at different times. But they sure as hell didn't overachieve. They just met expectations.
They just achieved.
And I wonder if, yeah, they just achieved. They didn't die, okay? And I wonder if the same thing kind of happened in Stillwater this year. Did they just kind of meet expectations, not exceed, not drop off? And so you got two teams meeting together that nothing really surprised us about how they finished out.
Yeah.
I'll just take the team that played that I believe the tougher schedule, and that's A&M. A&M played, I believe it was 3 of those 5 losses where that team they lost to was number 1 at the time.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
impressive as hell. And so I'm just going to take A&M simply because I
Well,
think
here's
the
the
battle test is.
For sure. And here's the thing, too. The Auburn game and the Georgia game were both pretty close. I mean, those could have gone either way. One big play here, one big play there. And that shows me that they've got the wherewithal to do it.
Yeah.
And honestly, if they win one of those 5 games, they're probably a top 10 team. Or not, maybe not top 10, but top 12, top 15, maybe top 20, at the worst. So it's one of those situations where it's really interesting just to kind of see, like, well, they did exactly what we expected them to.
Yeah.
They lost to, 5 top 15 teams, and yet we're going to say, you know what, they're not good enough to be in the top 25. All right, is that really the truth? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Because really, if you're looking at it, it's a lot less of the eye test for these guys. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, because if you look at the eye test, like, okay, they've looked pretty good, but you can't justify putting them in the top 25 with 5 losses. That's just
No.
not possible. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see. It's kind of the opposite of where you see, oh, well, these guys are a one-loss team, but their eye test is so good, you've got to put them in the CFP. Well, this is kind of the opposite. Well, these guys' eye test is great, but they're a 5-loss team. We can't put them in the top 25.
Yeah.
The eye test
Totally
says they
agree.
are who they were,
Yeah,
Yeah, so
just kind of interesting.
I'm really I'm a little heartbroken. As you both know, I'm living under duress in Austin, Texas, and this game is just 3 hours down the road in Houston. And I had multiple opportunities to go down there. I'm gonna miss it, but that's okay because I get to sit in my house, drink my beer, watch it on the 60-inch, and have a good night.
Best seats right
yeah,
there, man.
Looking forward to that. Okay, pushing on. I think you guys are going to be really interested at this. At number 8, the VRBVBROSU Citrus Bowl. Speaking about the most mediocre teams in the country, Michigan's season has been very much Texas A&M-ish. As they haven't really beaten anyone that they weren't really kind of supposed to. Bama, you guys tell me, you're not in the playoffs for the first time ever. How do you feel? How are you guys coping?
I think I'm okay with it. If it had come any other way, if Tua had still been healthy and we still had a full team, then I would have been upset, I guess. But
Sure.
here's
That's
the
fair.
thing: we're so run down. We've got, you know, we're missing defensive players. We're missing offensive players. You know,
Yeah.
our kind of our heart and soul of the team, Tua.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, honest to God, anything that Mac does is kind of like, thank you, because
Yeah.
you're not expecting. Yeah, I mean, Mac against LSU, I was not expecting that at all, not even remotely. And so, like, I'm happy with where we are.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yes, we lost to Auburn, yes, we lost to LSU, but those are two good teams this year, and the Auburn loss is still, on fluke plays and a missed field goal. Like,
Yeah.
all right,
That's fair.
if we're gonna fall apart at the seams and still finish up the way we're finishing up, as long as we do well in this game, I'm not unhappy with it.
Yeah. New
I,
Year's
I
Day,
wish I could be
1 p.m.
so.
Yeah,
I wish
Ash,
I could be.
we can see
I wish I
you
could be
haven't been
passive about it. I
shaving.
can't
Yeah, you're not looking so good. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, it's been a rough last 6 or 7 weeks, and I would just say that the hardest part about not going to a CFP game, not going to it, is just it sort of breaks the precedent. They've had it.
Mm.
Alabama's been in it every single year. That's really about it. I'm fine sitting home and letting other people play in the sand and let them have their fun, but I need Alabama. What I need from them is to get 2020 off to a rolling start by taking care of Michigan, who is not a chump, who is not somebody that's an easy pushover, and especially not for a team that apparently lacks a kicker completely. I need a win here, and it doesn't even have to be landslide or anything like that. Alabama needs to play Alabama's style of football and win this game over a very talented and pretty doggone good coach team. As many people will disagree with that as there are, Kakis is not bad at what he does. So I think that the win here is imperative, and I'm gonna call it. It's the Alabama win, but by no more than 14. It could be a very close ball game.
You really
Yeah,
think so?
I mean, I would definitely agree.
I think Alabama's going to beat the brakes off of Michigan. I don't think Michigan is going to. I don't think Michigan is a good team. I think y'all's Mark Jones. I think he's good enough.
Mac,
Mac
Mac,
Jones.
Yeah.
Mac Jones.
So I went to the A&M Bama game, and I walked the sidelines before the game, and I was there with one of my coworkers, and he and I are really big college football fans. We've seen a lot of college football. We've seen a lot of live college football, and we were just astounded at the just physical size of the Bama guys. Like, these are 18 to 22-year-old kids, and they are monsters, every one of them.
Yeah.
I assume
Yeah.
that Michigan probably isn't that far off, but I can't believe that they are equally or more matched from a physical perspective. So I like Alabama big in this one. Michigan is just disappointing me time and time again. All right, let's head.
Sure.
Let's
I
head.
think it's really going to
Oh, go ahead.
defensively matter.
You think so?
Yeah, sorry. I think it's going to the Alabama's defense is really going to be the issue. Is we're really young. We don't have a lot of depth there right now. A lot of injuries, and so I think that if things get to a point where we're chucking the ball down the field a bunch and they're getting gassed, I just don't necessarily know that we'll be able to sustain enough of the defense to hold them to a low number of points where we'll put up 40 points regardless, but
Yeah.
will they put up 20 or 40?
Okay. All right, let's head back to San Antonio for the Alamo Bowl. I don't know if you guys can see in the chat right there. I dropped something in the general chat for you guys. I don't think you can see the stream. We've got the Utah Utes, the runners-up from the Pac-12 against the Texas Longhorns, who somehow finished like 5th or 6th in the Big 12, yet got invited to the third highest bowl game. This is interesting to me, especially considering how Texas and Texas A&M in Houston was right there. They could have had it, yet they sent them down to San Antonio for the Alamo Bowl. If you guys can't see it, I've given a little horns down on the screen for our friends in
I
Austin.
noticed that.
Yeah, so we like to own our bias here, and if I'm being completely honest, Texas can suck it. So This is the New Year's Eve game, 7:30 p.m. Guys, please tell me you've got something better to do on New Year's Eve than sit at home and watch this game on ESPN.
I can say that there literally are about 1,000 things that are better than this, but I will watch the first few minutes of it because I've watched very little Utah this year. It
Okay.
seemed like Texas was on ABC every time he turned around, or one of the Mickey Mouse affiliates.
I was
ABC,
promised that they
ESPN,
were back,
but
but I feel a little disappointed.
many of us were told. It was rumored that they were back. The Utah Utes are going to probably be back before Texas is, and they never left. Okay, so that's where we're at with this game. I think Utah wins it, but it's not one of these landslide type victories because Texas is capable of moving the ball
Yes.
and putting points up.
Yeah.
So it's not a landslide 7 type thing,
Mm.
but I can absolutely see it be something around the 42-28 type affair, something like that.
Okay.
Utah.
Yeah, I don't know that Utah can put up 42 points.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed
Utah-
in that championship game.
Yeah, Utah just doesn't. In my mind, Utah does not have a very prolific offense.
Yeah.
Now they've got a fairly stout defense, but Texas also has a pretty prolific offense. Sam Ellinger's a pretty big boy, doing some big boy things. So I don't necessarily know that I would take Utah in this game. Now, and that's not so much a credit to Texas being good, as just my concerns about Utah's offense.
Yeah.
I don't think Texas has much of a defense to speak of.
Yeah.
And so
Not at all, in fact. Not at all.
Exactly. And so my thing is, I'm wondering, can Utah just put it together?
Yeah, I hear you.
And maybe they can, but I don't think that I'm going to see them blow it out. I mean, maybe a touchdown and a half. I'll give them 10 points, maybe, but I'd say it's probably a much lower scoring game, 28 to 18, something like that. Maybe, I don't know. It's not going to be close.
Yeah.
Nice.
So what do you guys think? Do you have an opinion one way or the other on whether or not the bowl committee should have done a Texas and Texas A&M game here instead of
I think it would have been nice. I think it's one of those things that I don't know why Texas is in the Alamo Bowl, honestly. I think that maybe it's just brand recognition at that point, but I think that it would have been cool to see an A&M Texas game,
yeah.
especially since now A&M's in the SEC and you don't see it as much as you'd like.
Yeah.
It would have been a nice pairing, but I think there's still some powers that be, PTBs, that
Yes.
are against
Yeah, completely
having that
agree with
matchup
that.
happen, actually.
Well, I mean, think about it. All right, so you look at the two athletic directors, right? And how politically charged those positions are because of the aura of college football in Texas. If those two, there is no future game planned, and so that's very important here. They have no idea when they would ever play each other again, and so I think the risk of
Right.
losing that game is so high that not knowing when you might be able to avenge that loss, it's just not worth it to schedule it, because while winning that game is so important, the risk of being the athletic director who agrees to it and then loses, and then never knowing when you're going to play again, like that's huge, I think, and I think that's the kind of thing that would be held over a coach's head, over an AD's head. Hell, it could even be held over a chancellor's head. You guys played A&M and you lost to A&M, and we're never going to play them again. And that's kind of a big deal. It's just
Well, and
one
especially
more
because you
thing.
got Schrodinger's Texas on one side and America's most average team on the other side.
That's
So
right.
it's a toss up. Who knows who's winning that one?
Oh, that's great. So let's go ahead and move forward. We got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth most anticipated game according to the stand staff. It's the Peach Bowl, guys. Oklahoma LSU. This is a playoff game. Do you think? And so maybe
If you can't tell, we
it's
don't really care about the big games.
Yeah, it's a small sample size, sure, but do you think this is indicative that maybe people are already kind of feeling some of the a playoff fatigue, if you will? Do you think that's real, or what do you guys think?
I think that really, yes, but I think that's only because there hasn't been a lot of variety.
Okay.
3 of these teams have been here before.
Yeah.
and LSU's the fourth, the new one,
Mhm.
and they're just essentially replacing an Alabama. I mean, I think that there is some fatigue going on, and I think that the only reason that this one's ranked as highly as it is the fact that LSU's new, fresh
Sure.
face to the table.
Yeah.
But I think that as we continue to get these, and I think that that's, I hate saying this because I'm not really a proponent of expanding, but I think that if we were to expand a little bit, that may be able to bring back a little bit of that hype, because you may get that upset
Oh my
where
gosh, so it brings
somebody
back
accidentally
so
knocks
much
off the
hype.
top.
An 18 playoff. I'll even
Right.
take. I'll take a 16 playoff. Give 1 and 2 a bye. You have 3 through 6 play, and then reseed them or whatever you got to do. Like just something else would I think would be incredible. I agree with you. We've seen OU, Ohio State, and Clemson over and over and over and over again. And so yeah, I agree that,
Right.
that maybe there's just some fatigue from the variety of it all. But Ash, I mean, you've watched Jalen play many times. Do you think he has what it takes? Do you think maybe this one's ranked so low because it's a foregone conclusion that LSU is going to win, or from what you've seen, do you think Jalen has enough to will Oklahoma to a victory?
The interesting thing about this is LSU comes in as this year's darling team. They're the ones that have the Heisman Trophy winner. They're the ones that come out of nowhere. They got the coach with the weird voice. Everything there says that LSU is your kind of your hands down favorite. If Oklahoma had not had that loss way back when to Kansas State and looked really badly doing it, then I think that favor would be switching a little bit more toward Jalen Hurts in Oklahoma, because the people, the voters, they love his story. He left the evil Saban empire and went to Oklahoma, and here he has. He's won it all again. We favor him. But then they lost to Kansas State, and it looked bad. Losing the luster was off them immediately. This game, this LSU Oklahoma game, might be getting more love if it was Oregon instead of Oklahoma in it. People just are not that excited, I don't think, about LSU. We've ordained as LSU that is they're this year's team. That's the first year for them. They got the golden child as their quarterback. Oh, and there's Oklahoma and Jalen. It's just sort of forgotten about a little bit. And they did, and it shows to me just the favoritism of fans versus the guys that are on the field actually playing. It's just a very different thing. If you've ever had to compete on that field before, your heart and soul is going to go into that. And the fans, especially the casual fans, whatever, Vegas, even for that matter, they're in it for the money, right? So I think that's what the problem is. There would be more love for this game if this was Oregon.
I don't necessarily know about that, because I think that if it was Oregon, it'd be a little bit more of a foregone conclusion that LSU is going to win. I don't think Oregon even has a shot in the dark to beat an LSU.
Right.
I think that Oklahoma's got a chance, very slim one, albeit. Everything's got to go right for them. And they're, Burrow's got to make a mistake or two here or there, which has happened before, especially if you go back a season or two.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that Jalen could do it. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think that LSU is probably going to win this one fairly handily, just because I don't think that Oklahoma's defense is good enough. And we've been saying this for years. Oklahoma doesn't have much of a defense, and they need to figure that out. But I don't know. I mean, both of them have the offenses to put up enough points. And it may turn into who's got the ball last, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it should be. If it, I do think that it'll be an Ohio State LSU game. I think that that's just how the cards are going to fall. And if we do, then it may be better than just about any of the ones that we've seen so far.
Can I go back and just can I go back and pluck on my Oregon choice in there as a better choice against LSU one more time? You know who played with defense this year and actually was pretty good defensively all year? It was Oregon. And that's my point, is that they would have brought something into this game that is different than maybe what everybody else has. Clemson has scored 60-plus points a game. I don't know how many games. Ohio State apparently can score when the door is open. It's no problem for them. LSU, their quarterback won the Heisman Trophy, and they got a stud running back who maybe will play or maybe won't. But Oregon has done it with a highly touted quarterback, and who the hell else? I mean, really, their defense has gotten them where they are, and I just think it would have been maybe the game might have been hyped a little bit more as number one offense versus number one defense. I don't know. My thoughts.
You guys want to hear a really funny story? I had muted myself in the OBS, but because we are connected via Discord right now, you guys could hear me fine. So our fans out there on the internet were treated to just a lot of this, and you guys, yeah, that's a really good point. No, I totally agree with that. And so they have no idea. Bottom line is, I think we're excited to see LSU Ohio State play, and I think that it hasn't even happened yet, and it hasn't even happened yet, and I'm already sick of hearing all of the dominoes falling with the quarterback transfers of, they picked Jake Fromm at Georgia, so Justin Fields goes to Ohio State, so, freaking, you guys get me flustered now. So Joe Burrow goes to LSU. Just that whole, they're going to be, hyping that quarterback kind of domino effect all the way across. So for those of you who actually are watching, aside from our mothers, we apologize for my ineptitudes here running my first show producing, by the way. So with the fact that we've made it about 30,
and it's going swimmingly. It really is.
The fact that we've made it about 30 minutes in before our first real screw up, whatever. I'll take it.
You're talking about highly hyped. You're talking about hyped quarterbacks. Can I just say that watching Jacob Eason the other night, I really liked what he brought on the field. I haven't watched him a whole lot this season.
Well, you're going to
that
watch
guy
him on Sundays.
might wind up being. Yes, he did. He might want to be one of the best ones coming out to go to the NFL draft. I know that's a hot take right there.
That is.
A lot of people would not agree with that, but
especially
just the tools and from what I see.
I don't know. Here's my thing. All right, so because you brought it up, here's my spiel on will Tua go to the draft.
Hold on, let me make sure your mic isn't
Tua
muted.
has.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah, right. Tua has a really interesting legacy at Alabama. He came in as a sophomore, or as a freshman, and won the title game for us.
Yeah.
Turned the game around. They weren't prepared for him, and he did great.
I don't think the average fan understands how remarkable of a situation that is, that Jalen has taken him all the way up, and at halftime of the national championship game, Saban goes, you know what, we're going to plug this freshman in and see if we can get a spark. And it freaking worked. Are you kidding me?
Totally did.
Yeah. Second and 26. Yeah, and he drops an absolute dime. I don't think the average fan fully appreciates that. So sorry.
No, I totally agree with you. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because you see, Jalen again go back and do it again next year, with the switch, which was awesome. But one of the things that I think that Tua has still left on the table, he hasn't led a team to a natty and then won it. He won the natty as a freshman, saving our asses.
Sure.
Then he didn't win it the next year, and then this year obviously he's injured. Yeah. And so I think that there's still a little bit left on the table there. Plus, you've heard him and his concerns about dropping too far in the draft, leaving a lot of money on the table. I think it's possible because he's now both of his ankles are tight roped, so he doesn't have to necessarily worry about that. The hip seems like it's been healing well, and I think that it's not as bad as the Bo Jackson one where it broke everything, and then Bo Jackson continued to play on it. He didn't. He got right out of the game right after that. I think that heals well, and I think that he has maybe a little bit more confidence in his team as time has gone on. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to the NFL.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Pretty fair.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'll take it. All right. So let's move on. Let's head up to Memphis, Tennessee for the Liberty Bowl. This is Navy and Kansas State. I don't know if you guys saw the story. Apparently, the Patriots let the Navy team borrow their team jet. It's kind of a cool little deal. I wonder, that's a pretty significant tax write-off for Robert Kraft. We saw Kansas State.
Just add it to his entertainment cost.
Yeah. We saw Kansas
Well,
State.
you got to think it's kind of donating it to the military.
Exactly.
So, like,
yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. So, we've seen Kansas State
maybe
do
it
some
is a
cool
little
stuff.
bit of a tax.
They went down into Stark Vegas and beat Mississippi State, who we didn't know at the time, but ended up not being a great team. We saw them knock off Oklahoma. This is, I think, for
That's
all
the big one.
intents and purposes, has been a great year for their first-year coach out of North Dakota State, Chris Kleiman. But Navy has had a quietly great season. They were one game away from making
Yes, they have.
the American Championship game. They beat Army for the first time in 5 years. And so, this has been a pretty good Navy team. I think the Navy team is probably overmatches Kansas State here. Maybe that's why they're ranked so high from our staff poll. But I don't know. What's your guys' biggest thing on this one?
To me, this is a pretty easy one, actually. I mean, I know there's a lot of favoritism toward the armed services team and all that, but I got to say, Kansas State, from team dynamics standpoint, has ability to beat you and score in a lot of different ways, and that's just going to be the thing that stands out the most. I really like Chris Kleiman a lot. This guy came along into Division I top tier football at just the right time. That program is on the rise, and you're going to see that against Navy. They are absolutely able to beat you in many different ways. Play a little defense along the way, which will help against Navy, but definitely going to take the Wildcats in this one, man.
Okay. Both.
I think the interesting thing that we've got here is that Kansas State has played a lot of really good teams to a real close margin. You look at Texas, which, we can argue whether they're good enough, but they're good enough. Kansas State plays on a big enough stage that they have handled pretty well dealing with kind of the stress and the mentality of dealing with that. I don't necessarily know that Navy's got that. I mean, obviously the Armed Forces game is always a big, highly televised game, but they kind of know what they're getting when they get into those games. But I think a bowl like this, I think Navy's got a lot of talent, but I really just think that Kansas State has shown us that they're going to find a way to score these points and win. And I think that they've kind of got the onus on them to do that. I mean, I think that it's one of those things that if they don't do that, then they're going to fall out of relevancy again really quickly. So I'm going to take Kansas State by maybe 2 touchdowns.
Okay. All right.
Sounds about right.
That one, New Year's Eve at 3:45 on ESPN. Moving over to maybe the best named bowl of the season. This is the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Or, as you know, the Tony the Tiger Bowl. And if this one's not great, then I don't know what is. This is actually also the only one of our bowl games that does not feature at least one ranked team. It's the Florida State Seminoles, who Wolf has really been kind of in a down kind of slump since the Jimbo era.
Oh, let's call it what it is. They're a garbage fire.
It's a dumpster fire.
Against old Firm for Herm down there, the Arizona State Sun Devils, who I think have overperformed this season. I've not been impressed with them at all yet. Somehow they've gotten their way to bowl eligibility, and any other season this might be a great football game. But here we are in 2019, and we're going to watch this one on CBS, or maybe we're not going to watch this one on CBS on New Year's Eve at 2 p.m. Eastern. Is there anything that
not watching? Absolutely not watching.
That was enough right there. You saying that it was on CBS was enough to tell me that I'm not watching this game.
It's out for me, man. Right there.
All right.
It's probably Beth Mowens, who I know usually covers ESPN. but it's over for
No,
me.
you
Man.
don't
That
think
game
it's
is
gonna be Gary,
unwatchable in my
your
view.
boy Gary? You don't think Gary?
No, they'll throw Tim Brando in
I
there for
sure
shits and
hope it's
giggles.
not Gary.
I'm looking it
Yeah,
up right now. Let's see.
it's
Full game
Oh
announcer
Lord.
teams. We'll look this up. Bo, is there anything that has you interested at all in this game?
I mean, just to kind of laugh at it, maybe. I don't know. It's not going to be much of a game. I don't think. I think Arizona State's probably going to win this one.
Okay.
Just because, like you said, they have overperformed, and I think that that's kind of enough in this game. I think that Florida State is going to shoot themselves in the foot again. And I do not think that Florida State's so bad right now. They're scrambling at this point. I feel like to just do anything. And so
Yeah.
I think that while Florida State winning this game would be big for them, and I think that if they can find it somewhere deep down in their heart to put in that effort and get there, then they will. But I think that the team's cashed out. It does
Yeah.
not look to me like that team is very committed to this coach and is very excited about this game. And I think that Arizona State has been able to show that they will find a way to win, even if it's not for all the marbles, you know?
and it's closer to being a home game for Sun Devils than it is Seminoles. If that matters at all, then that's the situation here.
Is Mike Norvell coaching this game, or is he coaching the Memphis game? Do y'all know?
I think he's finishing with Memphis.
I think he's going to finish at Memphis.
I thought he was.
So, all right, I found it. It's, of course, I tried to tell you guys this. I think this might be the only CBS bowl game. So, of course, it's your boys, Brad Nessler and Gary Daniels, on the call.
Oh, how awful. Oh.
So, well, hey, at least somebody else is going to see how terrible it is, because it's always been the SEC. Now we've got some ACC out here learning how terrible that Gary Danielson can possibly be.
All right, let's move on.
Unwatchable television. Unwatchable.
Okay. All right, let's move on. This one headed to San Diego. It's the Holiday Bowl, tonight. Oh, this is great. Friday, December 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern on FS1. It's the Holiday Bowl featuring Southern California and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Guys, that's late. For a bowl game, that's a late. You know, I understand in the season.
8 Eastern's not that late.
It's a little bit later for bowl games. You got to admit. I mean, this is Pac-12 type timeline,
yeah,
you know. But
in the season, when there's so many games that you've got to get them all in at some point, you would think that starting a game at 8 Eastern is not ideal, because you're looking at a 11 p.m. midnight finish depending on how it goes. But I do want to talk about this game from the standpoint of. For Clay Helton, how important is it to win a bowl game and get out of this season?
It's huge. It's huge for Clay Helton particularly. I mean, I know there's been some reassurances coming from administration out at USC that he's their man and that they're going to keep him on the ups and all those things like that. But a loss here to a decent Iowa team. This is not saying Iowa's some doormat ball club. Iowa's actually a 2.5-point favorite here.
Yeah.
But this game is almost at home for Southern Cal.
Yeah.
And they have a pretty firm fan base. They will travel. They love their Trojans and everything. They ended up the season not on a terrible note.
Yeah.
They did not win the conference, obviously. They did not go to the conference title game, but it's almost a home game and a lopsided loss. I feel like a lopsided loss to Iowa, which seems unlikely considering how low of a scoring team Iowa is. A lopsided loss, man. I mean, I'm telling you, Clay Helton is not safe. No matter the noise that comes out of Southern California, Clay Helton would not be safe there, and I think he needs to win it. The answer is I think he needs to win, and I think they actually do win it. I think they win by 2 touchdowns.
I think the drama surrounding Clay Helton is part of the reason why our staff has this ranked as the number 3 game left. Surprisingly enough, it's not even the last game of the evening. The Cheez-It Bowl, Air Force and Washington State kicks off at 10:15 p.m. Eastern,
wow.
Which is a crime, an absolute crime, I think, for a bowl game
wow.
to kick off that way. You're basically just telling everyone on the East Coast to forget about it. So
just close your eyes. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
All right. How did we get
Washington State at that, which is some of the most entertaining football, if nothing else. They're entertaining.
Yeah, the Air Raid versus the Air Force. Air Force runs the ball 85% of their plays, and Washington State probably throws the ball 85% of their plays. So, all right, let's march ahead to the Cotton Bowl. This is Memphis and Penn State, the Group of Five representative here against Penn State, who had some shots late in the season to win the Big Ten West. This is Saturday, December 28th, tomorrow at noon on ESPN. Do you guys think Memphis has a shot, and do you like that shot?
I'll say that they've got a shot. My thing is that Memphis has found a way to win in some difficult situations. And I am usually pretty high on these G5 teams, especially. Here's my biggest thing. Penn State, I think, is not going to be so happy with how the season ends. I mean, maybe they're just elated because it went better than they expected. I don't know, but I don't necessarily know that they're going to come in with the killer mentality that they need. I don't know. Do I think that Memphis is probably going to win this game? Do I give them more than a 50% chance? No, I don't think so. I think that Penn State is good enough to win this one.
Sure.
But I think that Memphis has maybe a 25% chance of pulling this upset off. And that's just because I think that I really respect what Memphis has done in the G5, even though that they lost to Temple, and there's a couple other games that maybe they didn't look so hot in. But I like Memphis, and we've got, I don't know, there's just a lot that I think Memphis has done right this season.
Mm-hmm.
And, it goes to show their head coach is going to Florida State now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that he's done a really good job. And so, I don't know. But I still think Penn State's probably going to win by a touchdown and a half, maybe 10 points. But I'm not putting Memphis to bed yet.
All right. What about you, Ashley?
I really like Penn State, actually, in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Penn State, actually, in this game. And the reason is that I paralleled them a little bit with my favorite team, Alabama, this particular season. I paralleled the two there. They lost a game or two that they wish they could get back again. They weren't blown off the field when they did lose. They just didn't quite meet the bar. They've got good coaching. They're complete from every other standpoint, and Memphis does too. But Memphis has the added distraction of having a coach that's on his way out the door. James Franklin is firmly there at Happy Valley, and so I just like Penn State and their fans, the way they travel, the fact that they want to end on a positive note. I know Memphis does too. Everybody wants to end on a positive note, but I just feel like the momentum is there for Penn State, and they know they need to win it. And that's what my comments were about Alabama and Michigan earlier. Alabama knows they need to win this to set the bar for 2020 off on the right foot. So I'll definitely take Penn State here in this.
Okay. Yeah, I find it very interesting. I was really, really impressed at Memphis and the way they went from playing Cincinnati 2 weeks in a row, the exact same, literally, like, they wash and repeat, was able to win that game 2 weeks in a row. I think is very impressive, and I think it tells us a lot about this.
That's really difficult to do.
It's incredibly, especially, we've seen a lot of rematches throughout the season, but to play 2 weeks in a row, I think, is really fantastic because it's unheard of. So I wouldn't be surprised if Memphis won this game. I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State won it. Anytime you've got a great Power 5 team going against a good Group of 5 team, you can't be surprised if the P5 team wins that. I do want to say that the Cotton Bowl Classic, this is the only bowl game that calls itself a classic, which is kind of disingenuous because it's played at Jerry World now. I went to...
It's not even played at the old...
Yeah, I went to this game, the Baylor-Michigan State version, a couple of years back, and it didn't have the feel of a classic bowl game to it. It was a good...
Speaking of Michigan State and the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
I went to the Bama-Michigan State Cotton Bowl, and man, was that a fun one.
So I wonder if this game was...
Sorry to just shit on Michigan State for a little while.
I wonder if this game was weighted so heavily because I know on our staff we do have a couple of Penn State fans. JJ obviously probably put this one up pretty high.
JJ being one, yeah.
Cam, cat's out of the bag now. one of the members of our team who has been playing a behind-the-scenes role for reasons was just accepted into Michigan, and so he's excited about becoming a Tiger. So I wonder
Good for him.
some of those factors maybe weighted this game a little higher. I mean, it's a great time
Well,
slot.
sure, we own our bias.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So this is in a good time slot tomorrow at noon on ESPN. Um, you know, I think it'll be a fun game, and I'm interested to see how it turns out. I don't know if I'll tune in now. Okay,
Agree.
the number
Yeah,
one
it's
game.
very competitive.
Yeah, the number one game, according to our staff, remaining here in the bowl season. And man, you want to talk about crimes against humanity? Let's get on the Sugar Bowl, Georgia versus Baylor. Guys, listen to this. Wednesday, January 1st, New Year's Day. This game kicks off at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay? This isn't a weekend. There's no, people aren't getting off in a second. Like, this is bad scheduling. I'm going to say it. This is awful scheduling to ask people to watch one of the most compelling non-playoff games and put it at almost 9 p.m. Eastern as the kick.
Yeah.
That's a mistake, I think, on ESPN's behalf, and I'm really curious to understand the reasonings behind that. But that aside, Georgia versus Baylor. You guys both got to see Georgia play through the SEC. I watched Baylor all season. I think they're a good, not great team. I think they're probably overrated from what we've seen. But what are y'all looking forward to in this game?
Well, I mean, it's Jake Fromm's send-off, so it'll be nice to see just kind of if he puts it all together. I mean, I would love to see them, just look amazing this game, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I think that Jake Fromm is a middling quarterback at best. I mean, he's got a lot of arm strength. He's got some talent, but he's made some bad decisions, and I'm wondering if he's going to even have the kind of drive to win this one. I don't know, because I feel like some of Georgia's W's have had to come on the back of Jake Fromm just gritting his teeth and doing something, you know?
That's fair.
And so I'm wondering if he's willing to put in that effort for a game that doesn't really matter to him. He's probably not going to go anywhere high in the NFL. I mean, he's maybe going to be a backup.
I thought he was just a junior this year.
I thought he was a senior, but maybe I'm wrong.
I
feel like
think
he's a senior.
I think he is a. I think he is a junior, but I think the expectation is that he'll go ahead and go on.
I think that would be.
But you guys make a great point.
I think this has been his worst of his 3 seasons as a player at Georgia. And so I think it'd be a mistake for him to leave it after this year, unless he really goes out and just beats the brakes off of Baylor and has an incredible game. So I don't know.
And that will prove a little bit. They are pretty solid. They are a pretty solid defensive football team. And you know what, guys? As much crap kind of as we're giving this game a little bit here about what time it's scheduled and all those things these are actually 2 really evenly matched football teams. They both play a pretty good brand of defense.
Yeah.
They both do a decent job on offense, but they seem like they can't get out of their own way sometimes in the big games.
Mm-hmm.
And they both kind of finished that, I'd say, second, third in their conference. There might have been a team that was just a little bit better than them on a given day, but they were miles behind the one that won their conference. And so it's a pretty daggum good matchup on paper. And man, just picking one of the 2 of them. I mean, I've been thinking about it for a couple of days actually, and I just can't get to where I feel comfortable either choice. If we see the Georgia we saw against Texas last year, forget it. Baylor wins hands down. If we see the Georgia that handled Auburn, if we see the Georgia that came out and took care of business most of the season, and hopefully not the Georgia that Alabama plays in week 2 of next season, then Baylor wins by a little bit. So really competitive game, I think. I mean, I think it comes down to like less than a field goal difference between the 2. I'll say Baylor, just because from what I've seen of them, they just play more consistently on defense.
Yeah. I will definitely watch this game.
Yeah.
I'll stay up late and watch this game. I'm that intrigued about it just to see what shakes out.
It's interesting, yeah.
It'll definitely be interesting to see, and I hesitate to bet against Georgia because Georgia's just, I don't know. Georgia, I feel like finds a way in some of these big. I mean, there have been both times that Alabama has played Georgia. I've thought, oh, we'll win this game pretty easily. I mean, it'll be a fight, but we'll still handle the game, and then Georgia comes out and there's no handling for us at all, and it's please save us backup quarterback, um, and so I just can't bet against Georgia. I'm gonna say Georgia by maybe a touchdown.
And note, all we're doing is talking about the games. No money is exchanging hands here, and that's why I'm so bold with my comments. Okay? If money was being laid on a table out here, I'd probably be singing a different tune.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I want to do a recap of our top 10, but first, if you've been watching us thus far, thank you so much for following us and checking us out on YouTube. Obviously, you know where to find us here on YouTube. Go to our Twitter page. That's going to be the best place to go. As games are going, we put highlights and commentary, and that's a pretty fun follow on Twitter during game day. Definitely check us out on Facebook, and our 2020 resolution is to really get the Twitch page going. And if you look down there on the very bottom, you see From the Stands US. That is our website, and that's where we're going to be putting a lot more original content here in the days and weeks and months to come as we get into 2020. So let's go ahead and take a look at the recap. Number 1 game, the Sugar Bowl, Georgia Baylor. 2 down there, the Cotton Bowl Classic, all the way to number 10, surprisingly enough, one of our college football playoff games, the Clemson Ohio State game. Of the 10 that we talked about, Bo, which one are you most looking forward to, personally?
Well, we'll go ahead and remove the Alabama game from this because my bias is going to point me there. What I'm most looking forward to, it's hard not to say that Georgia Baylor game.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I just, it's one of those things that I like watching Georgia anyways. And so, it's one of those situations where I'm probably going to say that one. Although I am obviously very interested in the CFP games, just to see if Jalen can do something against LSU, or if Clemson falls apart or Ohio State falls apart like they did in the beginning of the game against Wisconsin. But I think that if I've got to pick one that's not the Alabama game, then I'm probably picking the Georgia Baylor game.
Interesting.
I'm a little disappointed in our staff that somehow we have ranked the Ohio State Clemson game as less watchable than the Navy Kansas State game. But it's a team effort here. All the
Indeed, it is.
I guess it's a great time to give a shout out to our team, Jeff, who has done our shots and chasers all year, helped us put together the poll on this. Obviously, Dick, as you guys know, freaking
Always does a great
our
job.
producers in the background, Caleb, and oh man, I'm blanking on the Baylor guy that helped me out today.
They know who they are, and they've done
Yeah.
a fantabulous job this year.
Duncan.
Duncan, thank you so much, Duncan. If you're
Duncan.
watching, which you're probably not, but thank you so much. He actually helped me out today get this set up because I had to produce. I'd never done it before, so very, very grateful to him.
Seamless, man. Just seamless.
Last thing I do want to talk about, the best of the rest. So of the games we didn't talk about today, is there another game out there that for some reason, anything that intrigues you that makes you want to tune in?
I've got one, and I cannot believe it's not on the list. I love the Rose Bowl, the pageantry, the beauty of
Ooh.
Pasadena, and all those things. Cannot believe that Oregon, Wisconsin is not on this list anywhere. I think that's actually a really compelling football game, and
What a
why
great
it's not
pick.
here, I don't know.
That's a great pick.
Yeah,
All right.
that was the one that I was thinking of. But then there's also the Florida Virginia game,
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
which
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested
The
just to
Orange Bowl.
see if
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things that I don't know if Florida is as good as we give them credit for, and then I also don't know if Virginia is as bad as we expect. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. And I think that it's going to be an interesting game just to watch.
Yeah, mine is actually the Belk Bowl, and I love the Belk Bowl. The
Wow.
Belk Bowl is so near and dear to my heart, and I will tell you this, I don't care who's playing. I love the Belk Bowl simply because it's the social media presence that the Belk Bowl has.
Yep.
The
Uh-huh.
is bar none. The Twitter, watching that Twitter stream during the game is incredible. What they do on Reddit is great. I'm sad that this is the last year of the Belk Bowl. They have lost. Belk has decided not to renew their naming rights because they're a department store and nobody shops at department stores anymore. And so,
That's true. Get online, Belk.
sponsoring a bowl game just isn't in the business model. So I'm looking forward to the Belk Bowl. If anything, not really for the game, but just all this stuff around the game. Who doesn't love a good old trusted Belk Bowl? Shout out to Yoho Creative, who runs a lot of that. So there you go.
It will be missed.
Absolutely. I think no matter what you're doing this week, there's going to be some great games, and I hope everyone out there finds some time to enjoy the last full week of college football. Bo, what you got?
I got a quick question. What's your guys' your football New Year's resolution?
Ooh.
I want to go to the Bahamas Bowl next year.
Oh,
So,
beautiful.
That's going to be my my football resolution for the next year is to try and make it down to the Bahamas Bowl.
Fantastic. Well, what you got, man? I got something.
I want
What you have?
Tylen Wallace and Chuba Hubbard to come back, and I want to win Bedlam. It's been like 9 years. I think I'd like to win one every once in a while.
I think that's very, very little to ask. That's very little. I know that the Birmingham is right up there with the Belk Bowl in terms of its sexy naming. But I will say that I've been to one or two of them here. It's been called the BBVA Compass Bowl. It's Birmingham right now. Usually it's somebody like South Carolina against Wake Forest. It's absolutely forgettable.
Yeah.
But they're building a new football stadium for the UAB Blazers here in Birmingham. And that stadium will host that game from then on. And my New Year's resolution would be for them to get that thing done so they can play it there next year. I think it's going to be the next year, but I'm hoping that maybe they get it done and play it in 2020, at the end of 2020. And it'd be awesome to go to. A bowl game right here in my own city.
Yeah, if I know Birmingham, that's not happening in a year.
Well, not with that attitude, okay?
Who played the Birmingham Bowl? Has that one been played yet? What do we have for that one this year? I feel like I haven't.
I don't think so. I think it's at the end of this.
I think they play it like January 9th. It's ridiculous.
It's like very end of the situation.
They play it right before the first pitch of Major League Baseball season. That's when they usually start it there.
Boston College, Cincinnati on January 2nd. So there you go.
Yeah, a little over a week away.
All right, team. Well, that's it from us here From the Stands. Thank you so much, everybody, for following and for watching us and putting up with everything that we have put you through. We really do appreciate it, and very excited to see kind of what happens with the rest of these bowl games. Any final thoughts, Ash?
I think that's everything. I mean, I think we covered it all. Are we doing one more show before the CFP?
Yeah, I think we're going to do a CFP preview show, and we're going to try to work in. What I would like to do is go back through our past episodes and pull out clips of our best takes and our worst takes, and really hold each other accountable for some of the dumb shit that we said. I think I said A&M was going to win the SEC West. Obviously, that was wrong.
Well, I had Auburn winning it, so,
To be fair, I also said Minnesota was going to win the Big Ten West, and that was pretty damn close, and nobody believed me.
Yeah, that was close.
Nice.
So,
yeah, that was nice there.
So you got to take the good with the bad on that. So, all right, everybody, thanks a lot. From the Stands, I'm Will, that's Bo, that's Ash, and have a great bowl season, and we'll see you next time. Out.
Glad to be back.
Happy New Year.